How's it going, gurus? And welcome back to the IR Gurus channel. My name is Nick, and we are back here today to discuss RBAC. Some of you guys may know what RBAC means, but for those of you who don't, it's role-based access controls, and essentially it's how you assign permissions within the platform of SOAR here. So we're going to be covering that today. I hope this is beneficial for you guys. If it is, please drop a like down below, give me a subscribe, and if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to drop a comment as well, so that we can go ahead and address those. And we always appreciate the input here, guys. So let's go ahead and dive into this. All right, starting here with permissions. The first thing we're gonna deal with is we're gonna jump into the administrative settings. That's gonna be up here in the top right again, and administrative settings. That'll take you to the users page, and then I just jumped over to groups to start with. So this is really gonna be where we're going to be assigning roles and permissions. We've got users, of course. We've got the groups where we can actually create where roles are assigned within certain groups, which we'll touch on in just a little bit. And then we're going to have the roles themselves. And we're also going to touch on workspaces, which is actually where we're going to start today. A lot of you guys may not know what Workspaces is about, and Workspaces is very important when it comes to roles and permissions. Workspaces is essentially uh, a way to segment out your incidents. So if you've got multiple teams within your SOAR platform, such as a privacy team, maybe a legal team, of course, your security team, maybe a forensics team, managers, maybe different tier levels, stuff like that. That's really what you're going to want to use Workspaces for. That allows the analyst to see what they're allowed to see. And then when an incident gets moved to a different workspace or is being handled somewhere else, it allows you to kind of segment that up so that the users can only see the incidents that you actually want them working on. And so the way that we're going to do that is we're going to create multiple workspaces. So what we can do here is we can create a workspace, and let's call this maybe tier 1, right? We'll call this tier 1. We'll actually set this as our default workspace because that's where most of our tickets are going to come in. That's where they're going to be assigned. Of course, we can have automation saying if a ticket comes in and maybe it's always going to be for a forensics group and you know what that layout's going to look like, you can build a rule to automate that and automatically push that over into your forensics group or whichever other group you might be using that on. So we're going to go ahead and hit save and close here. Now we can see we've got another workspace down here. And what we're going to do is we'll create a couple more. So we'll go with maybe a tier 2 as well. We won't make that a default workspace because we already assigned that default workspace. Maybe we got a forensics group. Assign that to them. And of course, you can add whatever descriptions you may want, but we're going to leave it there. Of course, we can add another one. Maybe we've got managers here. Maybe managers are going to be used for, one thing you can use Workspaces for actually is to assign it to a group. Maybe if you want to allow a user to execute a block for an IP or something like that. Once it gets to a certain point, maybe you don't want tier 1 doing that, but you want tier 2 doing that, or you want to send it to your managers so that your managers can give the approval to be able to do that first. So what we'll do here is we can create a managers group in which it'll be assigned to the managers group, and they can do any permissions they want to do there, or any additional things that you want to assign there. So the way you would be able to do that is if you're setting a block or a block IP automation, what you can do is you can actually say, when it's your artifact type is an IP and when it's in a certain workspace. So you can kind of do things like that. So keep that in mind as you're building your platform out here. So we've got a couple groups here. We could even do something like maybe we've got an internal investigations group. So obviously, you definitely want that segmented out because that could involve somebody in your privacy team or in your security team itself. So you obviously want to have those investigations, pulled aside from everybody. But after we build our different workspaces, then what we're going to do is we're actually going to jump over to our roles. Roles is where we're going to be assigning the actual permissions for each role and what those roles will have permission to, as I just stated. Um, so what we're going to do here is in the master administrator, we'll start out there. Master administrator is always going to have full access to everything. And you always have to have somebody assigned to the master administrator role, because then you're going to want them to be able to change things in an emergency where maybe something got cut off and somebody lost permissions and now they don't have access to things that they should have. So that's what the master administrator is for. Of course, we can assign an incident creator. So what we can do is we can say, this person just has the permissions to create an incident. But as you can see here, they don't have anything else. Then what you can do is you can also say something like your observer. So this may be a role like your CISO or something like that. They might want a permission to be able to observe all of the incidents within the platform, and that allows them to create dashboards and such so that they can show their management as well of what's going on within the environment. So that's kind of how we would do that. We would just come down here. We can say they've got the permissions to view. And then, of course, we can start coming in here and defining additional permissions as well. But for now, I'm just going to leave them with the view permissions. So first, we'll create a new role. Maybe the new role here is going to be user administrator. So now the user administrator, they'll have access to roles, to users, and to groups. We may even be able to give them access to API keys so that they can, allow you different access. Maybe we would want them to have workspaces if they needed to create a new workspace, since this is kind of the entire permissions thing here of what they've got access to, or what users have access to. So we can save that then. We can see here now that that's the only permission that person has. We can come in here and we can say maybe let's see what's the next one. So this is our privacy one. So what we can do is we'll call this the privacy administrator. All right, so we've got the privacy administrator here. So what we're going to do here then, we're going to assign them the breach permission, which is essentially what allows us to assign different things like your company's industry, the different regulators that they have assigned to them, as you can see what it says down here. So that essentially allows you to build out the privacy module if you guys do have that license for you. We're going to call this the wiki administrator. We'll erase this because that doesn't apply anymore, but now this person only has the ability to edit the wiki. And then, of course, we can create another one, maybe called the so we'll call this one the playbook administrator, and this gives them the permission to add apps. They can also view the API keys, but they can't actually change the API keys. So maybe down the road, we would want to also give them the API key permission so that they can go in and edit that. And then, of course, down here, we would want to give them the ability to add different things. Like down here, you've got the ability to create playbooks and do, build out the system itself. So we can call this the playbook administrator. Oh, whoops. Well, let's give them the ability to run simulations too, so they can test things as they're building those permissions out. As well, we're going to go ahead and give them the ability to edit tasks and alter tasks, and then also access to the email permissions, so that they can download emails, so that they can also run, they can build playbooks around email ingestion and stuff like that. All right, from here, we've got all of these different permissions added here and created here. And we did not do, we're going to do the observer. Why don't we give them the ability to run dashboards as well, or create dashboards? So that gives them that ability. So now all of our abilities are assigned here. So the next thing we're going to do though is I did not touch anything really when it came to incident permission other than the ability to view and the ability to create. But of course we need people to be able to actually edit the incidents and work them, right? Instead of building that out as a global rule, which you can if you want, I actually like to build those out as workspace rules. In the workspace rules, which I already have built here, and I'll touch on these in just a second, but the workspace roles gives you permissions to different workspaces. Now, the way that the workspaces work, or the roles work, I'll show you when we get to groups. You can actually assign them on each different type of workspace. But essentially, we're just going to create the types of access that people would have within a workspace. So what we're going to do here is first you're going to have your workspace create. So they have the ability to create incidents, and that's the only thing that they have the ability to do. Next one is the editor. So the editor has the ability to create and then view and edit different things within the incident here. The next thing we're going to do is we can show the admin side, which of course the admin has the ability to do everything. And then finally, we're going to have the observer. Now the observer is, again, just like we had before, they have the ability to observe incidents within a workspace, but they do not have anything else. They can also create, it looks like it was given here. So that's not a problem. We can do that. But they only have the permissions to view, so that's where we're going to leave that there. Now what we'll do is to actually assign each one of these roles, we're going to go to groups. In groups, what we can do here is we'll actually create a group, and then we can name the group. So if we're going to create a tier 1 group, we can allow incident ownership, we can allow task ownership as well. And actually, because this is the default group, we will say that this is going to be the default incident owner as well. So we can assign all of those permissions here. Then what we're going to do is we can jump into global role. So in the global role, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them the ability to create. They can create an incident. They can create it in any workspace they want to, but they can only. But right now they can't see anything, right? We're not going to give them any other permissions because we don't think that they need any other permissions on a global level. But now what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the tier 1 space. So in the tier 1 space, this is the only place that I want my tier 1 people to be able to see incidents from. So we'll give them the ability to, of course, create within there, which you don't technically need to do because I gave them the global permission to create, so we can actually remove that. But we're going to give them the ability to edit. That allows them to work on these incidents. And of course, since they have the ability to edit, they already have the ability to observe, so we don't need to give them that permission. If we wanted to give them the permission of admin, we could do that. But of course, we don't want to, as they're just the tier 1 people. So what we'll do is we can hit create. And now the only thing here that we've given them permission is they can create an incident at any level or in any workspace. But they can only see incidents and work incidents in tier 1. Now we'll create another group and we'll call this tier 2. And again, we're going to give them the ability to own an incident and own a task. We will give them the ability to create again at any level. And then we don't really need to give them any other permission here as well. However, what we're going to do here is we're going to go over to tier 2. We're going to give them the editor ability so that they can work incidents in the tier 2 space or workspace. But maybe we also want to give them the ability to see incidents in the tier 1 workspace. So we can give them that ability too if we wanted to. And then that's the only permissions that we're going to give them there. Another group for maybe the forensics team, or actually let's do managers here. So managers are going to get some additional permissions. So we can call this the managers group. We can give them the ability to, how about own a task, but they can't own an incident itself. We could do that if we wanted to. We can give them the ability to create, but maybe they don't need the ability to do anything else. And then over here in the workspaces, we can give them the ability to observe in the forensic side. We can have them edit in the manager side, and then we can put them as the administrator in both tier 1 and 2, where that's where they're going to be working. So these are the tier, we'll call these essentially the support or the security managers. Call that security managers. That makes more sense here. So this gives them the ability to work within the tier 1 and tier 2 analyst levels here, or be an administrator for those. It allows them to work anything that's in the managers session here. And then, of course, it allows them to observe things that maybe are in the forensic system here, but they can't actually do anything. And then let's create one more, and we'll call this the CISO role. CISO, they're not going to own any incidents. They're not going to own any tasks here. But what we're going to do is we're going to give them the observer role. So they can see any incidents in any of these. And then we have the incident creator. So maybe they have an incident that they want to add or create that they've seen or been notified of. So they have the ability to do that. But we're not going to give them any other permissions here as well. But because I gave them the observer role, they can actually already they can already see the incidents in all of these. However, maybe we want to give them permissions to be the administrator for the manager's role, and maybe the forensics role. So we can you can see how we can start to parse these things out here. Finally, we're going to have to create roles for people to actually manage the incidents or not the incidents, but the platform themselves. So what we can do is we can call the user administrators. They're not going to have any ownership as well, we're not going to give them any workspace permissions. But what we're going to do is we're going to give them the ability to be an administrator of the users here. And then one last one real quick, playbook administrator. And again, no permissions over here because we're just letting them build things within the platform. All right, so now that we've got all of our permissions built out here, what we're going to do is we're going to jump into actually assigning the permissions. And there's two ways you can assign the permissions. Probably the easiest way is to jump into the group here, and then you have the ability here to assign members to this group. So what we'll do here is, let's say that Johnny Smith is the CISO of our organization here. So we'll add him there, and he's the only one that's got permission to do that. But we want to build out the tier 1 team. So maybe we've got Edgar here, and then we've got Craig and Daryl. So all three of them have been assigned this permission. Now we're going to assign tier 2, but instead of assigning it through the group, I'm going to show you how to do the other way that we can assign permissions. And that's if we go to the user section here and we find tier 2, or we find one of our tier 2 guys, which will say that Nick here, or myself, is on the tier 2 team. We can edit this, and then we can actually come down here, and in the groups section, we can actually assign ourselves the ability to be in tier 2. Now, from this section, you can also assign roles individually if you want to do that. You can also assign workspace permissions as well. The only problem here is if you start changing things about the groups to help define your permissions, that's not going to change your users in here. And you may have people assigned with more permissions than they should because they're assigned outside of your groups. So I do highly recommend to use groups instead of coming in here and manually setting their permissions. But now you can start to see that all of these people are getting assigned permissions. Here are the roles that you can see within the user section here. You can see which groups they're assigned to, of course, which roles they've been given permissions to. And then you can also see some of those roles include both workspace roles, and you can see it's tier 1. Tier 1 is where they've got the workspace observer. And then you've got the global role here, which is the incident creator. All right, now that I've shown you how to build out in the administrative settings your RBAC rules, let's go ahead and actually show you and demo how this works now that we've got these permissions built out. Okay, so before we jump into one of the users, I want to show you this. So currently you can see that I have a lot of incidents that I can see as the master administrator. However, I grabbed a few incidents right up at the top where I assigned them. Right here, you can see the owner. So tier 1, Daryl Ladd, Craig Finley, tier 1, Nick Mumaw, tier 2, and then Andrew Campagna. And then you can see on the right-hand side the workspace that they're actually in, which is tier 1, tier 1, tier 1, tier 1. You got 2 for tier 2 and 1 for forensics. So we've started to divvy these up so that they can only see certain things. Now, the first thing I want to jump into is the CISO rule, where the CISO, as I can show you, was only given permissions to see to see the administrator role, or to admin the forensics team here, and to admin the managers here. But they were given the observer role to see all incidents. So let's see what it looks like when we dive into log in as Johnny Smith here. All right, so now you can see that we have logged in as Johnny Smith. So you can see that up here in the top right. But let's see. You can see up here that the visuals that they had here, which I got. Here you go. I have my master administrator up here. You can see that I don't have the ability to see playbooks. I also don't have the ability to see artifacts or the inbox or anything like that down in these sections here. So we're definitely logged in as Johnny Smith. We've lost some of our permissions. So now let's look at the incidents that he can see. Well, as you can see here, he has the ability to see all 123 incidents that are currently in this SOAR instance that I've got here. Now let's look at those permissions that he had again. So he had the permissions of the CISO, which he has the observer, but he can only access and work on doing the forensics and the manager's role. So here is the incident that he has for tier 1. You can see this is assigned to tier 1, and I don't have an edit button over here. So if I come over here, don't have an edit button, I can't edit anything. I can't do anything in these incidents here. If I come back here, yep, I don't have the ability to close the incident out, or close the task out, I mean. So I don't have any permissions in here. So that's what the observer role gets you. You can just view everything. Now let's jump into one of the incidents that he should be able to edit. You can see instantly, I can see I've got more options here. I can close this task if I wanted to. As you can see, I have the ability to complete up here. I can jump over into the incidents. I have the ability to edit incidents as well. So now you can see the difference between those two roles, or the two permissions that we were given here. Now let's go ahead and jump into the tier 1 side. All right, now we've logged in as Craig Finley, who was only given tier 1 permissions. You can again see no playbooks, no messages or anything like that up here. And let's dive into the incidents that he can see now. Look at that. He can only see 4 different incidents within this system, and those are the 4 incidents that are in the tier 1 workplace. You can see that he can see the ones that is assigned to Daryl, or the ones assigned to tier 1, because these are people in the tier 1 group. But the workspace itself, he can't see outside of. So if we jump into one of these incidents, you can see that he has the ability to edit these and to work this incident, update things. So you can see all of that information in here. You can also see down here, he loses permission to see into different incidents that are in a different view. So you can hover over these a little bit, and you can see that he has, or that he can actually see who the owner of the ticket is, and some of the artifacts that are claiming that these are similar incidents. But it can't jump into the incident itself to actually view the incident or do anything with that incident. And now let's jump into the tier 2 level. All right, now we're in the tier 2 level. You can see that I've logged in as Nick Mumaw, which we gave permissions to see in tier 2, but let's go ahead and look at his permissions again. The tier 2 permissions are right here. He has the ability to observe into the tier 1 incidents, but he has the ability to actually work the tier 2 incidents. So let's see what incidents he has here. All right, so we've got all 4 tier 1 incidents, and we have all 3 tier 2 incidents here. So what we can actually see here is that if I jump into a tier 1 incident, again, don't have the permissions to actually edit anything. If I come over here, no editing again. But if I go into one of the tier 2 incidents, or the other one that's assigned to me here, you can see here that I have the ability to start working this like I normally would within the incident. So this is how we can start to separate the visibilities that these users have. All right, now I want to touch on one other thing too, the ability to actually give visibility into other incidents. So the way that you can give visibility into other incidents, even if it's outside of your workspace, is actually by using the members ability. So what we can do here is, as a tier 2 worker here, maybe I'm going to assign I want the forensics team to be able to have visibility so that they can work on something. So let's jump into this incident here. We'll go look at this. It's going to be 1844 or 2214 here. And then what we'll do is we will actually go in here and edit. And we've got the members in here. We'll add the forensics team. Now, when we save this, the forensics team should have the ability to look into this incident as well. So let's go take a look at that. All right, so now we jumped into Andrew's login here, and we can see that, again, doesn't have any of the additional permissions, which we could have assigned if we wanted to assign to the playbook guy or anything like that, or the playbook administrator. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to click on the incidents, and you can see that he has his tier 1, or his forensically assigned one here, which if we click in here, you can see he's got the ability to, it's assigned to the forensics team. And it was actually in the forensics workspace here. But let's take a look at that other incident. So because he was added to the members of this incident, what we can actually do here is we can click into the details, and we can see that the forensics team has been added to the workers on this. Because they've been added to the workers on this, or the members list, they can actually start to come in here and make changes. So we can change this incident disposition to confirmed and hit save. And now you can see that the incident has now been changed, even though this is technically in a different workspace that Andrew does not have the ability to see into. Because he was given members permissions, that allows him to actually be able to access these incidents and work them. This is really the way that we're able to work incidents in more of a silo, and then occasionally, if need be, kick them over the fence. So let's say we want to assign an incident that we want to kick over the fence to somebody. And now say what we're going to do is, as Andrew, he's got this incident here that is specifically assigned to Andrew, and it is assigned, or it's on the forensics workspace here. What we're going to do is we're going to edit this to send this to tier 2. And one thing you're going to see here is, after we do this, maybe we're even going to assign this to Nick, because Nick is on that tier 2 team. Or of course we could assign this just to the tier 2 team itself. And then we'll hit save. And what you're going to see is I still have the ability to see this incident. The reason I still have the ability to see it is because I worked on this incident. I was given a membership ability here, even though that it's now been assigned elsewhere. Now, one thing you can do is, through scripts and stuff like that, you can actually remove members as well. So if it gets sent over to a different tier or something like that, it clears out the members list. But what we can do here is, if we wanted to edit this, you can see that I cannot actually change the membership of it here. So what we'll have to do is jump into Nick's login here. So give me just a sec here. All right, again, logged in as Nick up here. and that's this incident here. So if what we wanted to do is actually remove Andrew from being able to see this incident now, we can actually just come down here to the members. We can remove the forensics team and we can remove Andrew. And that actually prevents him from being able to see the incident completely now. So this allows us to kick incidents over the fence to each other, but also isolates the ability for analysts in the platform to be able to see all of the incidents that are in the system. So I really hope that this gives you a good overview of the RBAC abilities of the platform, as well as how you can start to use different workspaces and stuff like that to help isolate incidents from being able to be seen from everybody within the platform too. If you guys think that these videos are helping you guys, you gurus, I definitely appreciate it if you can give me a like and a follow. Of course, if you have any questions, concerns, any videos you'd like to see, feel free to drop a comment down below and I will try to tackle that. I do have a video coming up that is going to be all about LDAP, which was actually requested by one of you guys. So yeah, I want to make sure that I'm helping you guys out in any way possible as we move forward here. If you are interested, there's a video on the right here that YouTube thinks that would be beneficial to you. So feel free to take a look there. Thanks, guys. See ya.